So if mental models are so powerful in crafting and influencing and creating our realities, what is it that we can do about it, right? So like is it limiting? Mental models can absolutely be limiting. Can they put us into the traps of negative self-fulfilling cycles? Yeah, so that we keep experiencing the same problems, the same beliefs, the same grievances, the same conflicts over and over again? Absolutely. In fact, when we have repetitive experiences, usually there's a mental model or underlying belief that is pretty much the culprit there that can be targeted. But can they also be a pathway for growth and excellence? Absolutely. We can cultivate mental models that are powerful, that are liberating, that are energizing, that are confidence building, that can actually progressively move us through the self-fulfilling prophecy onto the path of excellence. So the next question that I usually get asked at this stage is, okay, so you've talked to us about this huge influence of mental models. It almost seems like this big thing that can pretty much influence how my life works out and how I land up conducting myself. And how do I nurture mental models that are useful and functional? And how do I get rid of the mental models which I, identify as limiting me or, coming in the way or something that's not letting me be efficient or not letting me have good relationships? So there is an answer, but it's like all answers, it's an answer that comes with conditions. Let's take the two separately. The way new mental models are created, we said, was that neurons that fire together, wire together. That's how learning happens. So if enough times concept A, the neurons related to concept A and concept B in my mind are fired simultaneously or roundabout at the same time, my brain decides that for Ramya, A and B seem to be related. So let's connect these two neurons, these two concepts. So those two concepts start getting associated. Just like we saw for some of the participants in the experiment I told you earlier, the word glass and the word crash had been associated because crash is often associated with glass. That's how learning happens. How does unlearning happen? So, again, neuroscience lets us know that neurons that no longer fire together, no longer wire together. So, over time, if concept A keeps getting activated, but concept B does not, then at some point, my brain decides that, hey, for Ramya, concept A and concept B don't seem to be related anymore, and that connection withers away. It weakens over time, and eventually withers away. This is easy in science, but it's a little more difficult in practice to apply. Let me tell you, let's run through this with an example to say why. Suppose I have an association that I've built in my mind that rats are yucky, okay? And I've built this over time, it's become quite strong. So now, as soon as I think of rat, it's yucky. Rat, yucky. It's really fast. It's like a super fast highway. Rat, yucky, rat, yucky. So if I need to let go of this model, this association, I need to think of rat enough times and not think of yucky for my brain to figure out over time that for Ramya, rat is not yucky any longer. But because every time I'm thinking rat, even before I realize it, it's gone into my subconscious mind, I'm thinking yucky automatically. This can be quite difficult to do. It's difficult to do using at least the conscious mind. So are there techniques to deprogram these, to break these associations? Absolutely. There are techniques that use the subconscious mind. There are techniques involving therapy. There are techniques involving hypnotherapy. There are techniques involving some forms of energy movement. There's EFT. But there are meditative techniques. Vipassana meditation, for example, really is centered around this whole idea of allowing you to break past associations that you have, because what you do in Vipassana meditation is you get into a place of stillness and you allow stimuli and sensations to come in, but you do not react. So the stimuli comes, no reaction. Stimuli comes, no reaction. So you're trying to tease apart, loosen up the associations that we have built over the lifetime, right? About reacting very impulsively in a certain way to a certain stimuli. So there are techniques, but they take time, they take effort, and they take more than just the conscious mind. So it is not as simple as affirmations, right? So to create new mental models, that's simple. That's why the advertisers use it. We can also use it. Letting go of existing mental models is a little more difficult, but if you identify and if you really want to do it, there are techniques available. You can invest in doing that. So I'm going to suggest to you 2 workaround strategies that you can use to work around dysfunctional mental models that you might have identified. You can of course do one of the deep techniques to sort of liberate yourself from the binding nature of a mental model that you don't want, but you can also use these workaround strategies in the short run, short to medium run, and some of them can have very good spillover effects in the long run as well. So the 2 strategies in a nutshell, and then I'll elaborate on each one of them. So the first strategy actually is to create an alternate mental model and build that up, reaffirm that so that it dampens out the effect of the existing mental model. So taking the same rat example, I might have this association, and I've actually done this with rats and lizards and a whole lot of animals that I used to feel yucky towards when I was a kid, or even earlier in my younger days. So if I have an association called rat yucky, I can decide to start building one saying rat cute, rat sweet, rat poor thing, rat God's creation, whatever, okay, something else. Let's go with rat cute. So if I keep reaffirming rat cute, over time, and I build this, right? So I repeat that, I remind myself of that, and I repeat that often enough. Over time, I'm going to have both rat yucky and rat cute. But I build rat cute to a point that it dampens out the effect of rat yucky. So I look at a rat and there is cute and there is yucky, and my behavior is not driven solely by the yucky. And I can, use the science, I can use the, self-fulfilling prophecy to allow the rat cute to drive my behavior and my decisions and my choices. That's the creation of an alternate mental model. So you want to choose one, create one constructively that, is pretty much something that can dampen out the effect of the earlier one. So if, for example, you identify that you have, and this is something that I've done as well, let's say you had a mental model that work is a core or work is stressful, and you want to, and this probably you picked up this association sometime in your childhood. I picked it up, I think, when I saw my father coming home from office late in the night, tired and somewhat, irritated and grumpy, and I just formed this association that work is something that drains a person. And it's there. What are the alternate ones? So what are the alternate mental models associated with work that I've created? Work is fun. Work is a form of self-expression. Work is a way of enjoying myself. Work is a way of making new friends. Build these often enough and you see that they begin to start driving your experiences at work more. Does the work drains me? Work is stressful? Yes, they still exist in the mind, but the effect is dampened out by the effect of, hey, work is fun, work is a way to make new friends, work is a way to express myself, work is a way to create meaning in my life, work is a way to spend time in a meaningful and constructive way. So you can just add up and build up all these new mental models that will support you and take you forward. People do this with public speaking. Fear of public speaking, yeah? So I'm afraid in front of an audience, oh, I might make a mistake. You have a lot of mental models that can pull you down. Create new ones. This is a way for me to grow. This is a way for me to connect. Hey, I've been good at this in the past. Build up enough reinforcing positive mental models that can dampen out the effect of the ones that are holding you back. Okay, so that's strategy number 1. Develop, nurture, create, build and reinforce constructive mental models that can dampen out the effects of the ones that you've identified which are holding you back. What's strategy number 2? Strategy number 2 actually comes, so for you to appreciate strategy number 2, I'm going to give you a little bit of science here again, behind the fluidity of mental models, right? So let's go back to this diagram where I said we have basic associations in my mind, in our brains. They are less fluid, they're sort of there. And then we have mental models, which are more fluid in nature, constructed a little more creatively, yeah, a little more intense. And then we make sense. Sense making is an ongoing, very fluid, very creative process. Now, what I mean by mental models being fluid is that they're changing, several of them are existing at the same time. And not, if you see mental models influence sense making, but not all of them, not all the mental models and all the associations are going to jump in and influence your sense making at the same time. We would be running very, very complex algorithms in our head if we had to use all the information that we knew for every decision and choice that we make. So we have heuristics and biases built into our own mind. To explain this point a little further, I'm going to use the example. So the strategy in a nutshell is that we might have multiple mental models associated with a similar situation or a similar context or a certain point. The fluidity that I'm talking about is the choice that we can exercise and how we can influence which mental models become salient and dominate the workings of our mind and the sense-making process in a particular context. And can I have a choice in that? Yes, I can. Do I usually always exert the choice? Not necessarily. Very often we do certain, the mental model that becomes salient or comes into predominance in a certain context is just, sort of built in and hardwired. That itself is a model, like a program. So it just comes up and it runs our life, right? But we can exercise choice in which one we can do. So I'm going to explain this whole idea of fluidity and consciously allowing a certain mental model to become salient in a particular context through the example of identities.